I'm R.A. Schwartz, along with my co-host, Rachel Galligan, and welcome to the WNBA Insider Show. Each week, we cover different topics important to the W, using X's and O's along with key stats to bring honest and critical analysis. This week, we have a very, very special guest, Shea Serrano, who has one of the largest followings in sports coverage. But honestly, Shea, when you started covering the W, and for many WNBA fans, we might not have known who you were. And it was kind of like, who is this guy who has all these followers on Twitter and is tweeting about the game? And he kind of came out of nowhere. So could you give us a little background on who you are?
Wait, do you call the WNBA the W?
I like to properly call it the W. It's a little bit quicker.
That's kind of Aria's thing. He likes to call it the W. So. That's
okay. Do you call all of the all the leagues by just their first letter, or is that?
Well, it would get confusing because it would be? Am I talking about the NBA or the NFL or the NHL? You know?
Yeah, I just wondered about that. I'm Shea. I'm a writer for the Ringer.com, which is the best website in the world, and also I write books, and that's who I am. I live in Houston. Is that all the information you need? I'm not certain what you need here.
Rachel, why don't you tell them what we need?
How did you get your start? Have you always been a writer? You know, what were you before that?
No, I was a teacher before I was a writer. My wife and I were both teachers, and a bunch of crazy stuff happened. We ended up needing some extra money, and also I was trying to find a part-time job, and I was applying to be like a waiter or work at a grocery store, things like that. And nobody would hire me because they said, you've already got a full-time job. You're not going to be here when we need you to be here or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I was like in a panic one night, just Googling work from home jobs, and writer was one of them. And I was like, well, I've got the internet and the computer, so fuck it. I'll be a writer. That's how it all started.
And here you are.
Wait a second. What type of teacher were you?
I taught middle school science. I taught 8th grade science for like the ESL population, the behavior population, like basically the kids that are like pushed off to the side that nobody really wants. That was the group that I taught for the most part.
Do you miss that?
Yeah, it was really a great job that made me feel important. And I had been doing it I did it for 9 years. So I was already to the point in my career where it's like, I get a new group of kids at the beginning of the year, and 20% of them are like, "Oh, you taught my older brother, you taught my older sister," or things like that. Like that was the life that I thought I was going to chase down. That was the life I wanted.
So you never in a million years thought you'd be in the position you're in now, writing, working for the Ringer.
No,
it's just crazy.
No, I didn't even know. They don't tell little Mexican kids in South San Antonio that you can get paid to write about a thing you like. Like that's not a job where I'm from. So no, it was not even a thing in my head. It was just something I backed my way into, and then it worked out really, really
That's
well.
amazing. So you're married and you got kids?
I have 3 kids. I have twin 11-year-olds and a 5-year-old, all boys.
Okay, I apologize. All boys. Okay. Are they going to be like, studs when they grow up, like basketball players? What kind of sports are they into?
They're very handsome, so they will be they're going to be popular. They're tall and thin, and they have nice teeth and nice hair. So they're going to be okay, whatever they decide to do. They don't care too much to play like league sports. Okay. They like to go in the front yard and play basketball, or go in the street and play catch or whatever. But they don't want to be on an official team. They're more into music, drawing, things like that.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you. For a little bit of background, I think that'll help a lot of people because a lot of people are intrigued by you just in the women's basketball world, and we are our own little bubble that sometimes it's difficult to understand it, especially as kind of someone who's new and coming into that bubble and trying to figure it out. And that's kind of my next question I want to talk to you about. Like, did you literally just like wake up one day and say, hey, like I want to start talking about the WNBA, that you've got this whole get on the wave mentality and you're really pushing it. And sometimes you're taking some flack for it. And that's, you are, and you handle it with, that Shea grace that you've got. But I'm just curious as to like, did you literally just wake up in the morning and be like, hey, I'm going to do this?
No, it started with the college tournament. They do the tournament in March, and I ended up watching that one. I had watched, it was a clip that was floating around on the internet, and it was a guard named Aina Ayuso who plays for, or at the time she played for Oregon, and she like crossed the defender over, the defender fell down, and then she did a shot fake, and then another one went by, and I saw the clip and I was like, oh, this is cool as shit. Like, that's neat. And I, made a joke and retweeted it or whatever. And then this was maybe a month before the tournament started. And then the tournament started, and I think in the first game, she did a similar thing. She crossed another girl over who fell down. And I was like, yo, this is incredible. Let me start watching this. So I just started watching Oregon games. And then I ended up learning about, they have a superstar in their team named Sabrina, who, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows Sabrina. So I started watching her, and then, I'm paying attention to her. And then I see like, oh, they've also got Maita, and they've got Ruthie, and like all of these players. I'm reading about them and learning all these interesting things. And then, I want to know who they're going to play against in the next game. So I start reading about those players too. And that's really how it started. And Oregon had a senior on their team named Lexi Bando, who tried to get drafted. So that's why I watched the WNBA draft that one night to see if she got picked up, and she didn't. But then I heard she got a tryout with the Sparks, I believe. So then I was like, well, I guess I'm paying attention to the WNBA now. And then, the more you watch, the more you get into it.
Yeah. Did you have a chance, just taking it back to the NCAA world, did you have a chance to watch the, Arike and her shots, her game-winning shots down the stretch? Did you have a chance to see all those?
Yeah, I watched them all. So I was watching Oregon. Oregon lost to Notre Dame. And
yes.
And so it was like, okay, well, I have to transfer all of my energy from Oregon to Notre Dame. Like that's what happens here when your team loses to another team. Because it was like all the things that Oregon was good at.
You jumped ship that quick?
Oh yeah, real fast. No, Oregon was still my favorite team, but it was like, the movie Training Day. There's a scene in Training Day when Denzel explains to Ethan Hawke, if you kill someone, they have to be your slave in the afterlife or something like that. So I felt like, okay, Notre Dame.
Okay.
Notre Dame killed us, so now I've got to, like, I belong to them. So then I just was like, well, let me learn about all these players, and they have a player who I really, really like named Marina Mabry, who like she just talks shit all day long during the games, those are my favorite kind of players. And so I started watching her, and then I learned about Arike and Shepard, and so I watched the whole rest of the tournament after that, and then of course the Final Four was fucking insane. And, you're just building up off of that momentum. Like, oh, this was a lot of fun. Let's keep going.
Yeah. And I think that's something that has been a common theme. It kind of started, especially with this year in particular, we're seeing a big push for the WNBA just because of what happened back in March, which, was just incredible. Everything that happened back then. And you hear a lot of people talking about that shot. I mean, you got Arike on Dancing with the Stars. I mean, there's just so much hype around women's basketball right now. So I was,
it's cool to watch all that stuff happen, to see people, like, it's fun to be excited about stuff. So you start watching this new thing, all of a sudden, like your basketball intake doubles overnight. Yeah. You've got a whole new world to learn about. And you know who it was? You don't have to always give credit to, is this woman named Natalie from Bleacher Report. She was the first one who sort of put me on the women's game.
Yeah,
she was like called me out on it, like it's a blind spot for you. You should be paying attention to this. And I was defensive at first. Like, how can you not be defensive? And then I was like, she's got a point. Like, what am I doing? Why am I not paying attention to this? Which is how I started watching the tournament. I mean, this was several months prior to. So then I messaged a few of my friends who I knew wrote about or were familiar with women's basketball, like Kristen Ledlow, for example. Email her or DM her and say, hey, who should I be paying attention to? Who are the writers that I should be following that are doing like good work, that I can learn all this stuff? I don't want to just show up not knowing anything. Right. And so she mentioned, she gave me a list of people like LaChina Robinson or you or Natalie, or like, people who I was like, we're sort of in the same area, but not really. And then so that's just how it started. I started following all of y'all. And when you find like the community on Twitter, that just makes everything a lot more fun, because now, oh, she's talking about the same thing I'm talking about, or he's talking about the same thing I'm talking about. Like, that's fun to be a part of,
Yeah, absolutely. And I was kind of curious, now that you're kind of immersed in the WNBA and you're watching it frequently, I know you've spent some time really following Diana Taurasi, and we just had a GOAT debate as the greatest of all time just in the women's game just a couple of weeks ago. And you talked about Mabry, you talked about some of those players that just got that like ridiculous edge to them. And I mean, Taurasi, she is the epitome of that. Talk to me a little about Taurasi and just like your mentality and just her and the stuff that she does. I mean, I can tell your type of player that you love, and it makes sense to me just the stuff that she does and how that really connects with you. So just talk to me about like what you've seen out of Taurasi, how your conversation with her went, just kind of your thoughts on her. Probably let me know if I'm wrong, but your greatest of all time in women's basketball from what you know so far.
Yeah, from what I know, and again, it's a very small knowledge base so far, but I would assume it's Taurasi. She just got all of the accolades that you would seem to look for, and she already has that built-in legacy. Mm-hmm. Like you could probably argue right now, Maya Moore is better at basketball than Diana Taurasi if you're just going like skill for skill, right. Maybe, but. Legacy counts in that debate, and Taurasi has Absolutely. That baked in. So I would pick Taurasi, but no, the reason I like her is just, as I mentioned, she just runs her mouth the whole game, and those players are always the most appealing to me. I will remember it was the very first WNBA game of the season that I watched. It was a Mercury game. It was the one when she hit her 1,000 3-pointer, and so everybody's paying attention to that. And when she hit that 1,000th one, she like came off a pick around Brittany, put it up, made it. And so the cameras are on her watching her, and she spun around and she's cussing out, like very clearly calling people or just shouting the word motherfuckers at the universe. And I was like, this is fantastic. Because she had already hit several threes by that point. And it's like, okay, this is a player that I'm interested in automatically. And that for me is really how I think watching anything works. Like you start watching a thing and somebody will stand out eventually, and then you just pay attention to that person, and then as an after effect, like you learn about the other people who are around them. Same as what happened with Oregon, and it was Sabrina first, and then it grew out from there.
I mean that's what happened with me when I remember I'm from Minnesota, born and raised, currently in DC, but I went to a game in Simone Augustus with a dirty crossover and then like a fadeaway J, and I was just like, who the hell is this?
Yeah, exactly.
And she was just like dancing back down the court,
Yeah, and so that's what happens. Like I'm watching Taurasi highlights on YouTube, just learning about her, and then I come across a clip when her and Augustus get into it, and they come face to face. They shoulder bump, and then they get face to face, and Taurasi kisses her on the cheek, and I was like, this is hilarious. Let me look at some more Simone Augustus. Like, is she getting into this with other players? And then, it grows out from there. It's like when you watch a new TV show. That's exactly what it feels like. The first episode, second episode, you're immediately drawn in by like one or two of the obvious stars of the show. And the more episodes you watch, the more you pay attention to the characters on the periphery and their storylines and plot lines. And like that's what's happening with basketball for me, which is a lot of fun to like get to experience that again, like what happened in the NBA.
Yeah. Have you had a chance to go to a game yet this year? I think you're headed to one early July. Will that be your first game that physically in the stands that you've been at this season?
Yeah, we're gonna go. I'm gonna go to the Aces. The Aces were the team I picked at the beginning of the season because they're from San Antonio, like the franchise is rather. And so there was that. Then they got Asia, who I remembered from the tournament, and so I picked them. I wanted that to be the first game that I went to. So I'm gonna go in a week or so, fly out to Vegas for that, and then after that, I'm gonna go to Phoenix for a game, which I'm really excited about. At the end
so I gotta ask you, as someone who's from Minnesota and saw many sports teams leave, it's hard for me to be a Lakers or a Dallas Stars fan. How do you cope with that?
It didn't bother me at all. I mean, it was, you know what I'm saying? It was just like, oh, cool. They're connected to San Antonio. I'll go with that.
I hear that.
Easy enough. He just moved on right along. I like it. And I know you've got a big time, appreciation for Wilson. You just wrote that piece about her, especially when it came down to her braces and getting hit in the face. She is doing something that we have not seen, God, I don't even know, in a long time out of a rookie. And she doesn't even look like a rookie, not even from any standpoint of what she's doing. And what have you seen from her that you like? Just from her edge, or even just her kind of goofiness, just being a big advocate for the game, and her really contagious personality, not to mention just how talented she is. What are your thoughts on A'ja Wilson?
I think with A'ja, for me, it's two separate things that are appealing about her. Number one, there's a class of basketball players who they just move a little differently than everybody else. It could be something like the way that they walk, or the way that they dribble, or their posture, or whatever. Like, there's a group, and it's always the top level players who move just a bit different than the commoners. And watching A'ja, it's very clear that she belongs to that group. She's a little more fluid. She's already bigger than everybody else. She just looks like she was built to dominate in basketball. So that's sort of what draws you in. And the other part is that you're watching it happen right now. I didn't get to watch her in college very much, besides a game or two in the tournament, but I'm watching her now, and it seems like she's sort of already growing, not necessarily a meanness, but a confidence that she can play in the league. Like, there was a game, I mentioned this in the piece, but there was a game when they played the Storm, and the Storm is a terrifying team. They've got Breanna Stewart, who's maybe the league MVP right now. They've got Sue Bird, who is one of the greatest point guards of all time. They're a terrifying team, and the Aces are a bad team. And the game started, and A'ja hit the first 9 points for the Aces in a row. And on the last one, it was like very clear she was feeling herself. She hit like a jab, step back jumper over the defender, and was already running back down court before the ball even went in. And I was like, this is exactly what we're looking for. They show her get back on defense, and she has the look in her face, the y'all not fucking with me look that you love to see in your franchise player. And you just watching that develop is very cool.
Yeah, and I think we're far past rookie of the year type of mentality from her. She's got that mentality of like, I'm the best in the league, or I'm going to be the best in the league, or I'm aiming for that type of thing. And she's playing like it. And like you talked about, she's got the intangibles. She's just different. She's different in so many aspects.
Yeah, there was an article that came out. I was reading about it, where she was talking about how she's in the WNBA now, and all of a sudden her idols have become her rivals, which is a cool thing to hear a young player say, like, okay, this is a person who knows she's coming after it. She wasn't deferential at all. She was being respectful still, but saying like, okay, I'm coming for the throne. And that's great.
And ready to bow up to it, and not shied away from that challenge whatsoever. I'm kind of curious to you, just as you've watched the things that you have seen just in these last few months of really kind of immersing yourself into this game. What are some of the things that you've learned just from like WNBA basketball so far that like maybe you didn't know before? Or is there anything that like you feel like you want to learn more about that maybe we can help you with?
I'm in the stage right now where I'm just learning about all of the players. It seems like every game somebody would do a little something where you go like, okay, I would like to learn more about I would like to learn more about Chelsea Gray or Alana Beard or whatever after watching the game last night. Because when you start watching the Sparks, Candace is the first one who you pay attention to because she's incredible. And then you just go from there. So I think that's the process for me. I'm not so interested in just like, oh, tell me about this player. It's more fun to just learn about it as it happens. So I think that's where I am right now in my fan experience. So if you're like asking, what do I want to know? What do I want to learn? It's really, I just want to learn more about each of the players, because that's what makes the game fun. Like, for example, the Sparks and the Storm played last night, and had that game happened at the beginning of the season, had that been an early game that I watched, I would not have known anything about it because I didn't know anybody yet. I had not watched anybody play. But because it happened last night, several weeks into the season, I saw the ticker come up the day or two before that said, okay, we've got Storm Sparks on ESPN. And I was like, oh, cool. This is Candace Parker versus Breanna Stewart. And like, I was excited about it because I knew that part of it already. You know what I'm saying? So that's just where I'm trying to be. Same as with when an NBA game comes on and they make the announcement who's playing, I automatically go, oh, this is cool because it's this player versus this player. And this other player has this storyline, which is like kind of interesting. Like, that's just
Have you had a chance to watch the Wings at all?
Yeah. I watched. I mean, that's one of the teams you watch because they've got Skylar, and then you learn about Liz. I was watching Liz highlights the other day after she tore apart my aces, and yeah, I found out she's like Australian, which is incredible. And I mean, I don't know if it's incredible, but I thought it was funny to hear her accent. You don't expect it, and then like you start learning about her. Oh, she's been playing basketball professionally since she was like 15 or something crazy like that. And yeah, so I watched a couple of the Wings games.
She also has
I'm a huge Liz Cambage fan. What do you say?
She has zero fucks giving, and that's partially why Rachel is such a Liz fan.
I love her. She might be my favorite.
She's a Terminator down low. And those are I think for me the type of players that I'm drawn to are the ones who are just what I am not in my natural life. So like I watch Taurasi out there talking shit to the universe, and I'm like, that's not me. She's never scared. I'm terrified of everything all the time. So like I'm drawn to that. Same with Liz or like a Jessica Shepard or Ruthie or those type of players where there's these big, strong players who are just banging down low, and I've never been able to do that on a basketball court. So it's interesting to me. But yeah, Liz beat the shit out of the Aces. She was a terror down there.
Oh, she's incredible. Yeah. I mean, she's just the force that changes every aspect of every game and every opponent she plays against. Yeah, I'm a huge fan, as you can already tell. But I'm curious, we asked that question, and hearing you talk about just how much you've dove into this and you're reading about it, you're writing about it, you're truly analyzing the game, and you've even just in a few short months have this great opinion on a lot of different topics. But for us, there's a great group of people out here working tirelessly, trying to cover this thing. And I say this thing speaking primarily right now about just the WNBA, but we could broaden it even more about women's basketball coverage in general. That are really, we're in our own little bubble, but in the grand scheme of it, it's just a drop in the ocean. From your standpoint, and we have to be appreciative of kind of what you're doing because of your platform. And it's something that after hearing you talk and just kind of seeing your passion with it these last couple of months, that you genuinely do care about. And I just want to kind of ask you, from your opinion, how is it that we can grow it? How can we get more writers like yourself or basketball minds to cover it? That's kind of been the big question. I'm curious what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, that's the tricky part to me, because you can't make the argument that it's the product that's bad, because once you start watching it, it's fun. You can't make the argument that the players aren't interesting, because you start learning about them and you hear all these. It's the same stories that we see from all the other athletes, which is great. So I'm not certain how to get other writers to pay attention. I think I don't know how you would handle that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to do. What do you do? How do you get someone to pay attention to a thing that they don't want to pay attention to?
Well, I guess you're a perfect example of it. And I think that's why we posed the question at the beginning, like, how did you even stumble upon it? And you had a couple, someone that kind of challenged you on it, and you were willing to give it a chance or to turn your attention to it, and look at you now. And obviously you've been able to kind of bring some interest just because you have the platform that you have and the following that you have, and you've done the things that you do. So I think, there's no doubt in my mind that it's growing. I think anybody who has been in this world, early on until now, that the popularity of women's basketball is at an all-time high, that you're seeing more people trying to cover it. You're seeing more podcasts. You're seeing people really trying to get it going. So I think it's going that way. But it's just a matter of, you've got to use all the techniques that are being used. Social media is so big, especially in the Twitter world, just from a base of knowledge. But I was just kind of curious, I think you're just a perfect example of someone who was willing to give it a shot. And once they did, they realized, hey, this is pretty cool.
So I got to ask you, I would feel stupid having you on the show and not speaking at all about hip hop, because Rachel and I both love hip hop, and we know you do. First of all, have you had a chance to listen to Drake's latest album?
I did. I listened to it last night. I was writing a thing, so I had it playing in the background.
Do you have a favorite track?
No, not yet. I maybe made it through one time. It's long as fuck.
It's a double.
It's
Yeah,
really
it's a double album.
Just kept going.
So my other question then is, if you were an athlete, or maybe you consider yourself an athlete, what would be your pump up playlist?
I'm not an athlete, first of all. Second of all,
I think you are. Come on.
I'm a Twitter athlete. If you can be an
there we
athlete
go.
on Twitter,
Yeah.
I'm an athlete the way like e-gamers are athletes.
There we go. There we go. An athlete is an athlete.
Okay, all right. I'm a driveway athlete. But my pump up music, I would fall back on what I know. So it'd probably be DMX's album from 1998. It's Dark and Hell is Hot. That's an album you turn on, and it's very aggressive and very fiery, and that would be the one I picked. Yeah. Okay.
I hear DMX, I think Bart.
I was expecting a lot of things when I got on this podcast. I wasn't expecting to have a man bark at me today. Surprise.
It was the DMX bark.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm curious. You've got a new book out, and it's called The Conference Room in 5 Minutes, and it's about The Office. Am I correct?
Yeah, Conference Room 5 Minutes. It's not really a book though. It's a PDF of some articles that I wrote, some essays about a TV show that I like, and that's what it is. Yeah.
So you're a big time Office fan. You've seen everything. Is that your favorite show?
It's one of my favorite shows. Yeah, for sure.
This is a really important question.
Okay.
Then I've always wondered, what position do you think Phyllis played when she was in high school?
She was a Liz Cambridge. That's what she was. She was the Office's Liz Cambridge. She's a banger down low.
Down there, just killing it. Okay, I was curious what position you thought she was.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I'm good from my standpoint, guys. Is there anything else you want to talk about, Shea, or get out there, or things that you want to plug? I mean, let us know.
No, that we're good to go. This was fun. It's always fun to talk about a thing you like to people who also like it. So, I had no idea. I mean, I had a general idea. I had no idea how aggressive non-WNBA fans are on the internet. It's like it's crazy to me. I very rarely get mean messages or rude messages on Twitter, thankfully. But that's a way to get them. Turns out,
It is, and it's unfortunate because I'm like, what are you so angry about?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of anger, and why?
Yeah.
Like, do these people? I mean, just step back and think to yourself, why am I so angry about this? It's weird and it's bizarre and it's really unfortunate. And I know a lot of us just try not to even go down that path.
Yeah.
Of messing with it. But yeah, no, it can be brutal out there, and it's a tough battle that just women's basketball in general is fighting day in and day out.
I guess on that topic, I have one question for you. Have you gotten any flack from WNBA fans who are criticizing your love of DT? Have they come at Lynx fans, let's say, coming at you like, nah, she sucks?
That has happened maybe once or twice, but I think more than that though is like new guy hazing. Like, what do you know about this? You don't know anything about this. Why are you writing about this? Like, that has happened for sure, which makes sense. You've got a thing that you care about, and this new person shows up, and you want to make sure that they're treating it with the respect that it deserves. That part has happened. Yeah, but that's understandable. I would be disappointed if that didn't happen,
For sure, but if I think we can't have it both ways. We want to sit here and grow the game, and then if we grow the game and it's not the way we want it to be, well, then that you're contradicting yourself. So I just want to personally say thank you for kind of giving this a chance and watching it and allowing women's basketball to be something that you've really become interested in. You're using your platform and as things that you care about, and you're bringing a lot of attention to it. And just as someone who played basketball, it's my passion. It's my first love. Thank you for that, because, anytime we can bring some attention to it and bring a new fan and someone who wants to cover it in whatever way that suits them, in your own unique personality, even though you're new to it and you're growing, I got to respect it. So thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah, I want to always make sure that I don't get celebrated too much for paying attention to a thing I probably should have been paying attention to for the last 10 years or whatever. Like I'm 10 years late. I've been writing for 9 or 10 years. I should, but I appreciate that. It's fun. I'm glad that, I mean, you're one of the people who, if I have a question, I just message you and you always have an answer for me. So the fact that you're there, or Natalie's there, or who, Hoopism. I don't even know Hoopism's real name, but I know the Twitter handle and I message them all the time. Like everybody's very, very cool about everything. So.
Well, and I think I speak for everybody that says, hey, fire away, whatever questions you want to know. We're all here to help you learn, and we just appreciate what you're doing.
That's what's up.
On that note, I want to close off this episode. I'm R.A. Schwartz with my co-host Rachel Galligan. This is the WNBA Insider Show, and we are very honored and thankful to have Shea Serrano on the episode.